to make this star, I've got some wash away stabiliser, cutaway stabiliser to float on top, my scissors, a long piece of ribbon to attach it to the tree, my threads with matching bobbins, 4 pieces of 6x8 fabric, and 2 pieces of batting the same size as well. Now if you're going to do a matching back to this rather than the tie-on version, you will need to double your fabric and your batting. As always, I'm going to start off by hooping my stabiliser, and this is the wash away stabiliser that I'm hooping. And I'm going to place a piece of cutaway on top. The reason I'm doing this is so that when the wash away has been washed away, there's still some stabiliser there to support the stitching, and it won't show because it's going to be cut back along with the excess fabrics. So I'm now going to pop that into my machine and stitch round number 1, which is the outline. I'm going to turn my hoop over, and I'm going to take my first piece of fabric and I'm going to place it over the outline, and I'm going to hold it in place with a little bit of masking tape, painter's tape depending on what country you're from. Okay, so stick that down. It just stops it from slipping around in the hoop. Okay, now I'm going to add a piece of batting or pellon over the top, and I'm going to place my top fabric over there as well. I'm now going to pop that in my machine, and I'm going to stitch that down with round number 2. Just before I do, I'm just going to pop a little bit of tape on to hold this while it stitches. I'm now going to stitch round 2, which is going to secure my fabrics to the hoop. I'm going to trim away all the excess fabric and batting. Now I'm going to pop that back in my machine and stitch round 3, and that's going to do the quilting stitching. And now round 4, which is going to do this block. Now round 5 for the next quilted area. And round number 6 for the last one on this piece. I've changed my thread and my bobbin to gold because the next stitching that it's going to do is all a decorative stitching along the area between each of the quilted blocks. So I'm now going to do round number 7, and now number 8 for the next part, and now round number 9. Next is round 10, which is going to put the satin stitch all the way around the edge of the star. Round number 11 is going to put the decorative top stitching over the top of the satin stitch. So that's the first half of our star completed. I'm now going to remove it from the hoop. Okay, and I'm now just going to trim up along this edge because this is going to be where we join it to the second part. Okay, so now that's completed. I'm now going to hoop some more wash away stabilizer, ready for the next piece. We're now going to do the second part to the star. I've loaded the second file into my machine and I'm going to hoop my stabilizer. And as before, I'm going to put a piece of cutaway over the top. I'm going to pop that in my machine and stitch round number 1. I'm going to turn my hoop over and add my backing fabric over the outline and then stick it down as before. And I'm going to place my batting over the top with my fabric on top of that. And I'm just going to stick that down a little bit so that it doesn't move around in the hoop. So I'm going to pop that in my machine and stitch round number 2, which is the stitch down round. As I did before, I'm going to remove the excess fabric from the front and back. And I'm now going to trim away the excess fabric, batting and cutaway stabilizer from the front. I'm now going to pop this back in my machine to do round number 3, which is the start of the quilting. Now number 4 and number 5 and number 6. I'm now going to join piece number 1 to piece number 2, and I'm going to pin it in place, making sure that my pins are well out of the way of the stitch line, and I want to line up that line of stitching there on top of this one here. Now that that's pinned in place, I'm just going to turn this over and I'm going to add my piece of ribbon, and I'm going to tape it in place so that the halfway mark of it is going to sit across this way here. I'm just going to get some tape and I'm going to stick it out of the way so that it doesn't get caught up in the mechanics of the machine. And what I like to do is just turn that over and stick this over here out the way so that the ends don't get into any bother, like so. I'm now going to pop that in my machine and stitch round number 7, which is going to join these two pieces, and it's going to stitch the ribbon on as well. Now that that's stitched, we need to move this piece of ribbon on this side of the star over to the other side that's already stitched. So I'm just going to turn this over, because if we don't, it's going to end up stitched down there, and then you won't be able to tie it around the tree. So I'm going to pull that back over here, just pop a bit of tape there, and pop that up there with that piece so that it's out of mischief. Okay, I can now pop this back in my machine and start doing the decorative top stitching as before. And next we're going to stitch round number 8. So I've changed my thread over to the gold again for this, and also my bobbin. Next is round number 9, round number 10, round 11, and number 12, and this is round number 13, which is going to do the satin stitch around the border. And lastly, I'm going to stitch round number 14, which is the top stitching over the satin stitch. That's all the stitching done, so I'm going to remove the pin now, and the tape that's holding everything out of the way. Oh, my cat's whining. Okay, and I'm now going to free it from the hoop by cutting it out of the stabilizer as I did with the first piece. Now I do have to be careful that I don't cut my ribbon here. And I'm now going to free it along here, taking care not to cut my star. I'm just going to pull that out of the way, and this along here. And there it is. So all it remains for me to do now is to run a cotton bud with some water around the edge to get rid of the wash away stabilizer. And there is our star with the ribbons on the back to attach it to a tree. Now I've been using a fabric called Scuba, which is quite floppy, so I've come up with a solution for that. I've got a product called Hardtex, and it's a transparent glue-like paste, if you like, and it actually stiffens fabric. And what I've done is, with this one, as you can see, it's quite stiff, and what I did is I painted it on the back all over, dried the first and second coat with a hairdryer, and then left it to harden overnight, and it gives you this supple but plasticky back, and your star won't flop. If you're using cotton or any stiffer fabric, you probably won't have to worry about this. Also, if you're going to stitch 2 of these out and sew them together to form a star that actually sits over the top piece of your tree, you won't have a problem either with Scuba. There it is, one really pretty star to go on top of a Christmas tree. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they come out, and thank you very much for joining me.